For the ORYAA update, I wanted to add the MOU. Are there any protests? Is there anything else that anybody needed changed on the agenda? All right, do I have a motion to approve with the changes?
Sure.
Second.
All in favor? All right, moving forward. Approval of the minutes. From April. Oh, it was the 19th. That's what it says. Not the 15th.
I didn't see anything.
There's a typo on page 3. The, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines down, it talks about
Financial?
design and financial aspects, should be financial.
All right.
Good catch. I was wondering what you were referring
I
to.
was wondering what it was also.
There's only one I'm improving.
All right, any other changes?
No.
All right, so I move that we approve the April 19th, 2018 minutes with the one correction.
Second that.
All in favor? So approved.
Unanimous.
All right. We have Mike here today. He is interested in joining the Parks and Rec Committee.
Great.
So he's observing, but if you have any public comments you'd like to make, you're more than welcome to.
I think I'm all set.
All right.
Learning and listening today. Thank you.
And since there's no other public,
Well, I appreciate your coming, because I was going to raise the question, when I drove here, there's a long line to get into Libby's and a long line to get into Scorpio's, and there was not a long line to come in here, and I was wondering, what are we doing wrong?
we're not handing out drinks.
Maybe we should hold our meeting in a different location.
Right?
Yeah, I don't think you want to hold a meeting at Libby's, right?
Right, that's not worked out well.
It hasn't worked out so good for others.
All right. Round table. You're looking stumped.
Yeah, I'm kind of stumped.
Should I start down this end?
And maybe something will come to me.
Dave, did you have anything for round table?
No, I didn't want to comment on, you sent this out, Rachel, and you're gonna be talking about that later?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what I added under ORYA. Anything?
I have a piece of the wagon from Wagon Hill in my car.
The new wagon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I don't know where on the wagon it's from, but it fell off.
Is it a large piece?
It's about 3 feet long.
Really?
Yeah, a piece of metal.
Like a metal bar. I must have been, I think, underneath.
Oh, it's metal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not
Metal.
a piece of the wood.
No, but the step is also broken, the wood on the step, but
Thank you for
Mhm.
sharing that.
Yeah, we have to remember to give it back to you.
Yeah. Just add that to my trunk. All the other rec items I have in there.
Right? It's like a giant crowbar. You'll be
It's-
good.
Yeah. Costumes and I still have the bunny costume in the back. Or it's in my garage.
At least I gave it back to you.
I mean, maybe, I don't see a place to put it, but at the last Land Stewardship Committee meeting, Mike Lynch gave an update about the project at Wagon Hill, which is the shoreline stabilization. And the project involves professors at UNH. There's been a lot of grant money obtained, and there'll be a lot of other kind of funding that goes into the project. And basically, to restore the shoreline, they're looking at doing plantings and probably putting a little bit of a barrier in the water. The key, though, is as those plantings get established, if they get trampled, that they're not going to take, and the whole effort will be in vain. So it's kind of, we talked about how to reach out to the community to know that there'll be a temporary kind of restriction on the access to that part of the property. People walking their dogs and dogs that might swim there or whatever, to let that cordgrass, eelgrass get established, really get its roots solidified before that could be reopened, just to make it so it's not in vain doing that project.
That's a pretty costly, the cord grass that they're growing, it's costly, so it'd be tragic.
If it, right, if we, yeah. So that, and there'll be a lot of public outreach, education, explaining that whole kind of process that's gone on. It's an interesting process where in the past, each piece of cordgrass would get planted, and thinking of how big that area is, and they've somehow connected with a place in Maine, and so what they're going to use is kind of like how one might put down sod on a lawn. They're getting these big patches that have multiple plants, and so you're able to place a patch and take the place of a lot of those plantings. So, yeah, and it's a project that, from what Mike said, is being looked at more than just locally and more than just regionally, because it's addressing a very pervasive problem where we have seashore with rising water levels, tides, storms. So.
We had talked at another meeting about, a lot of the, like the local lakes, they have like an attendant that's there on site monitoring the boats that are going in, taking down information, so potential of having like an intern of some sort be stationed down there, on weekends or, you know, a certain portion of time, just to help educate people and monitor use, so maybe in the works as well, once all that happens.
Sounds like a good plan. When are they looking at starting that?
It's a ways out at this point.
Okay.
Is it next
It's-
spring?
I think it's next spring, and the grant funding has to come through, because it's quite costly to do this.
Right.
And they've already leveraged a good amount, and part of it too will be the trails will be looked at to make sure our trails are located in the right place, that we, you know,
Right. I think they need like a year for it to grow. They want to start this, I think they need to start here in May
Right.
for next year.
Are we looking at maybe putting some sort of like board down there or something with like the information on like, you know, what is the eelgrass and why it's important, you know, about.
that, I mean, that will be part of it. Durham Day will be part of it. Friday updates will be part of it. And as Rachel said, even having people on site to explain
Right.
to users.
I think that's
as
gonna
they
be
come.
key, quite honestly. I
Yeah.
mean, the signage gets blown over, people don't
Oh,
read
yeah.
it. You really just need someone down there on a regular basis that's enforcing
Yeah.
what's happening for it to really be effective.
Sounds good. So the next summer, will it affect our programming down there? At all? I'm just
I don't,
thinking
thi-
ahead.
I don't
I don't think
think so,
so.
because we don't use the water.
right.
I mean, it might affect Durham Day a little bit if we bring boats in and out, because we're trying to keep people.
I mean, part
away
of it
from
is the part of the project is to rework that beach area.
Okay.
The beach, the mud, the water, and that transition, and then fencing. You know where the fence currently is?
Yes.
All of this would be on that other side of the fence to address all that erosion. But they're talking about putting fencing, you know, out, so people, when the tide's out, it's not just like a set of boulders to jump over, it's,
An actual fence.
right, so.
Kenny, I need you to speak in the mic. I'm having trouble hearing you.
So, I don't think it's gonna affect programs at this time. But as Kenny mentioned, there may be some trails that need to be closed down, reworked, relocated.
Right.
and That might be a bit of a challenge for the community to adjust to. Specifically, the trail that's closest to the water.
Yes.
It's in really rough shape.
It's good looking ahead. Mike.
It never rings.
Maybe it's the round table.
Hang on, it's terrible. I think that I should excuse myself and I'll be back. I'll pass on the round table.
Sounds good. All right, moving forward to business. The first order of business is an update about council and any sort of land stewardship things from Kenny.
Do you want me to
Are
do,
we skipping? Yeah, Rachel.
do number 6?
No, we can do you,
Oh, I don't care, it's just,
unless you want to save it till the end.
doesn't matter, it's up to the group.
Yeah, we go
Dave
by
wants
the
to, Rachel.
order.
Let's go by the order.
Go by the order.
Okay. All right, so just a list of our spring programs that are currently up and running. This week, we started our trail running, kayaking, and mountain biking programs after school for middle school and elementary school students. So we have a really strong turnout of our elementary school students. Our middle school group has kind of dropped off a little bit for the spring on these programs. I'm not sure if, I think for some of them, we know that there's a conflict with sports and things like that, so, but we have a nice group for each of them, and it's, great to get those underway. And all of these here will kind of wind up our programming really for the school year. And just a little update here on Memorial Day Parade. Participant registration forms have really been slow to come in. I think at this point we have like 10 confirmed groups, which I know that in this week to come, people will reach out, but it just seems a little slow this year of people reaching out and wanting to be involved in the parade. I have not yet heard back from a military presence at the parade with the form that we filled out. We have confirmation from Moherman Elementary School that they'll be participating, or students from there will be participating, but I have not yet heard back from Mastway. So I've reached out to them again to see if they would like to, have a group there. And then I just listed some of the key people that will be in the parade this year. Our Grand Marshal is Russ Smith. In the past, the transport of the marshal has been Ed Darnell, who has, he's transported the veteran for
Right.
years and years and years, said no to doing so this year. So we, was able to reach out to Bill Lenharth, and he has an antique car, so it'd be unique to have that. And then just the rest of the list there, so. I think it'll all come together. The weather's looking, at this point, pretty good. It's rained the last 2 years, so hopefully it will be nice. But I don't know if anyone else has anything to add on the parade.
It's following the same route, right?
It's following the same route. I think moving into next year, it would really be nice to have some sort of a Memorial Day committee in place.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say this year, it's really, the Parks and Rec Department is busy this time of year, getting ready for summer and hiring and spring programs, and I don't know, I just feel like I have the connections into the schools easily. That's not a challenge. It's some of the other connections that I feel as though some other folks in town can easily get that stuff done or know the right people to talk to. And so I would love to see next year, definitely the Parks and Rec Department to stay involved, but for there to be some sort of committee that helps to move this.
And they can bring other ideas too. Like, use antique car is a good example. Maybe somebody that antique car might know other antique car owners, and you get more people in the parade.
Right. And, someone in town who has a connection to, has a military background
Yeah.
and can, I don't know, just knows who to contact.
Yeah.
And so that would be something I would hope to see that takes place next year, to take a little pressure off and just keep the parade moving in a good momentum. So our schedule of summer events is as,
I'm sorry.
Yep.
So if it's okay, one of the new town councilors, Andy Corer, who I think helped last year finding the marshal, I could reach out to him, because he's got military
Mm-hmm.
connections. And also there's the Rotary connection.
Right.
So I don't know if that's another,
Andy has been extremely helpful the last 2 years, this year and last year, with helping to plan this, and that's kind of where it's like, you know, I ask him, he makes some connections, comes back to me, I follow up with these people, and it would just be great if, you know, someone like him or he was on this committee, and,
Yeah.
you know, they're in charge of finding the marshal and setting up some of like the keynote speaker that has a military background, and then Parks and Rec can coordinate with the schools, and I think if everyone, even if it was just 4 people, but they had really specific roles, it would just, it would,
hence your suggestion, having a special committee, which
Right.
makes a lot of sense.
right, someone who is really, can just go after people to participate in the parade, you know, things like that. So yeah, our summer events that we have, the family campout is coming up soon, June 23rd. We currently have 4 spots remaining for that, so it has really filled up quite quickly. Our party at Pettybrook is a new event for the summer. It's still in the works about exactly what's gonna take place with that, but trying to make it different than Music on Main, more of like foods and crafts and things like that. Some of the, like Hop and Grind last year, it stemmed from them basically having their food truck out, when they were trying to open and get the word out about what they had going on. They had about 500 people that came out for that, like, one day, free burgers and all of that, so we were thinking if we could use the parking lot, have band and food and, I don't know, just something a little different than Music on Main, but still an event. So that is in the works, working with Celebrate Durham on that. Our picnic in the park is scheduled for July 18th. That's gonna take place at Jackson's Landing. Our Music on Main is gonna take place on August 2nd. The rain date would be the following Thursday. And, we've partnered with DPW. They have their 40th year tree celebration. So they were kind of looking for a time this year or this summer to highlight that, being the Tree City winner, I guess it is, right, Kenny? Tree City winner. So we talked about them jumping into this event. When the band takes a break, we would make this presentation, and someone from the state is gonna be there with like little saplings for the kids to like plant in containers and, you know, take with them to plant at their house. Smokey the Bear might be there, so all kinds of cool stuff. I think it's gonna be a great event. The Summer Splash and Potluck Picnic is scheduled for August 12th, and then we have Durham Day on the 22nd. And just a staff update, our practicums, I think last time I was here, I had mentioned that our assistant that we had just hired was also like not even a month into the position and was hired full-time by the library. So I had a practicum student with me all spring, who is planning to stay here for the summer as well and be a camp counselor. I've transitioned her into the assistant director's position. She basically finished classes officially yesterday, so she's on board. You know, today was really her kind of like first day of getting stuff done, but since we've worked together all spring, she's familiar with the registration process and just many aspects of the department, so it's been great to just delegate stuff to her, and she's been able to do a great job getting it done. So today was a great day, getting a lot of things done, and I appreciated her help. And as of yesterday, we are like fully hired for the summer. So with the assistant, the original assistant that I hired leaving to go to the library, I thought I had everyone squared away for the summer, so it really kind of put me in a bind for hiring for the summer, because so many people already had their summer plans already squared away. But I actually hired one high school student to be like the other main camp counselor. She did a fantastic job in her interview, like one of the best interviews that I've, you know, had with a student, whether high school or college. And then I hired 2 other high school students who are gonna be, they're all going into their senior year next year. And 2 of them are gonna be more of like an assistant, you know, just real part-time filling in. So I'm excited. I think it's gonna be a great opportunity, and hopefully they have a great summer with us and can stick around for, the following summer, each summer come back kind of thing would be a great goal. Our van was ordered on April 30th and should be here, I would say, beginning of June. So they said 4 to 6 weeks, so it should be here mid-June, the latest. Our summer camps, so we do a week of camp before the REACH program that has great attendance. I think we have like 11 or so kids signed up, so nothing too crazy, but I'm sure we'll get a few more to fill in there. So that's a STEM style camp, Deep Blue Sea and Gadgets and Contraptions. So that week is gonna run with good enrollment, and then we move into the REACH camp, and we're currently full for all 5 weeks for that camp with kids on a wait list, so I need to see what we can do there to try to get some more kids in.
How many is full?
Full, because we kind of base it on staffing in the van,
Yeah.
really like 14.
Yeah.
So we're really there with a couple kids on the wait list. Some weeks we've been able to squeeze a few more kids in. So I have a feeling we'll probably wind up with, we could have 20 kids, I think, now that I have the staffing that I have for the summer. But it just changes how we use the van and things like that, so.
Good for you.
So yeah, I think, last year going into REACH, some weeks were full. Most of the trips were full, but we still had some openings some of the weeks, and this year we're full for everything already, and people emailing and calling every day with trying to get their kids into other camps that we have going on, so.
And this is your third of the summer, and if I remember correctly, the first was pretty not smooth and not so well attended. Second, very successful. Now it's grown to an even higher level, so.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I was hired in the summer of July, and everything was planned already, but nothing ran. Then the second summer I felt was kind of like a rebuilding year, and 3 out of the 5 weeks ran, 1 of the field trips ran. Then last year, all 5 weeks ran, all 5 field trips ran. We were generally full for most of that, minus like one of the last week, 2 of the trips or
Might have been
something.
like the last week, but we were generally taking the van and Goldilocks for
Right.
everything.
So, this year going into, we're a good, 15 days away from the end of the month here, or the deadline to register, and we're full for everything, so,
It's very solid.
yeah, it's great. I'm excited for a good summer,
Should've got 2 vans.
right?
Renting a second one.
Yeah, I'll bring that up with the council next.
A year.
One a year, there we go.
Right?
Another staff member, another van, we'll just keep going on that route. Let's see. So I have this, I'll send this around, but this is like our little summer guide that we have. There's one page that I'm still trying to finalize a little bit more. But we have 3 teen trips that we'd like to offer this summer. They are to Tube the Pemmy River, Gunstock Adventure, like the zip line and all the stuff that they have going on there. And then a pottery making and painting, so the kids actually get to spin on the wheel and do all that. We also have 3 adult trips planned just for the summer. We'll of course do more as the year goes on. Peabody Essex Museum, Explore the Old Port, and Arts in the Vines would be the 3 trips that are planned there.
Can you tell me where the latter 2 are located?
The Old Port in Portland would be like a drop off, and you can take the ferry to Peaks Island. You can test out, you can kind of do whatever you want with a ride there and a ride back. And the Art in the Vines is at Zorvinio Vineyards.
Where's that?
It starts with an S.
California.
No, it's just down south from here a little bit. I'm trying to think of the town off the top of my head, and
So, Seacoast region.
it is. It's like close to Boston, but not quite there yet. Or close to Massachusetts. It's not Seabrook. Sandown? Sandown? Is that right?
I don't know what it is, but there's a town called Sandown.
And that's
Stand
south.
down.
It's,
Right on the
okay.
Massachusetts border.
Yeah,
Go
so
Google.
it's in Sandown.
Go Google.
Let's see. We also are having some guitar, ukulele, and fiddle lessons that will be offered this summer. Pretty
The fiddle's an addition.
Yeah, it is.
Same instructor?
Nope, new. He's a Lee local.
Huh.
Has taught at, I want to say, at Portsmouth Christian Academy. And then we're still trying to find a date for the White Mountain meetup, and I'm thinking a Saturday or a Sunday in the fall, because we're really running out of
So,
Summer times.
summer day weekends. Yeah,
Be nice to save something for the fall.
right. And it'll be pretty with the foliage and all of that.
Yeah.
and that's when I'll
It can be a
help
leaf
you
peeping.
a great deal with trying to put that together. I think
Okay.
it's a great
Awesome.
idea.
And I will mention that it's not on this update, but this past Friday, we had middle school students, we participated in the Service Palooza with the middle school students, and we had a group at Jackson's Landing and a group we had two groups at Jackson's Landing and a really large group at Wagon Hill Farm, so they were really fun to work with, and they did a great job. It was nice for them to be out and about and helping out, so. And that's really all I have.
That's all she wrote. All right, now we can move on to business. Kenny?
So I already mentioned Wagon Hill, and
Mm-hmm.
and Rachel mentioned the van, and maybe other things is that Thompson property. There's a lot of trail work going on there, and I think kind of shared between the LSC committee and our committee will be some sort of maybe event in the fall that we want to do at the Thompson property, so we can kind of showcase that and familiarize people with that property. And as well, the trails at Oyster River Forest are very, very well utilized. They've been blazed. Bridge work has been done, and so there'll be an event planned for there as well.
Yes, and I was actually thinking about that. What if we did like instead of doing two separate events, what if we did like I don't know, I forget what I called it in my head. Now I should have wrote it down. But it was something to just like a Trails Day welcome or kickoff.
The way the Ag Committee does different things around the
Right.
community, and we could showcase properties. at that
Showcase
same time.
properties, have something different, a tour, so.
A trail
Because it's
track.
hard, yeah, it's hard to get people to commit to all these, everyone's got busy weekends, so if we could do one big thing, I think that would be nice.
Yeah.
They had like a checklist of things like they had to stop and like find specific like tables or something like hidden
Yeah.
throughout to.
Or someone that can guide them, and,
Right.
at each one of the places they go to, each trail, there's someone there.
And there's a really good synthesis with that LSC, because we talk about bringing people in to those properties, walking and exploring. There's someone we're trying to line up who does bird walks.
It's this Sunday.
ORF is really
He's scheduled for this Sunday.
great. So that's set. So there's that kind of synthesis between that Conservation Commission and that recreation focus of these properties, I think, is working very well.
Where is this Sunday?
It's at Oyster River Forest. Kirk Dorsey.
You have to sign up for it? People have to,
You can,
good plug, you're on TV, might
yeah,
as well plug it.
you can register for free at durhamrec.com. And yeah, the program is free.
Very
And
cool.
It's 7 a.m. at the
7 a.m.?
gate. He will be there, so
And if you do so in the next 15 minutes, you'll receive an extra.
if you do the next 15 minutes, it's free.
There's another property, it's just a few blocks away from Oyster River Forest, and I don't know the name of it, but it's just kind of gone online a little bit more formally. There's now a map up and a kiosk. It's on Wednesday Hill, right before it meets Packers Falls.
That must be Thompson Forest. Wait, Wednesday Hill?
Wednesday Hill, so it's
Thompson Forest is there.
That's, yeah, that might be.
so
the
it's on the
thing.
it abuts the river.
Yes,
And I
that's the Thompson.
I
yeah.
noticed on the map that there is a clearing that says picnic area and boat launch.
Yes,
So there may be some ability to program water. It's pretty tame until you get to Wiswall.
Right.
So you could kind of go and take Anna out at Wiswall too.
Yeah.
It could be a nice little potential local thing.
Yeah, definitely.
That would be fun.
I don't know how far, I haven't explored it yet, but I don't know how far, it's not super far. I went down there in winter, but the picnic area from the road, I don't
It's
know
nice, it's beautiful.
how,
It is really nice there.
how much time or energy it would take to get boats down there.
I think it would take some energy, but it's not.
Yeah. I mean, the trails are like, you could,
I was in there in the winter as well, so that was the last time. I don't know. It was really cold too, so I was just like, give me back.
yeah, I'm like 2 doors down from it. So we rode it last fall, but
Oh, cool. Yeah, no, it's really nice in there.
cool.
And that's all I have.
That's all you have?
So,
All right.
Do you have an agenda?
Do a quick update on where things stand with ORYA. We're gonna be putting together, it looks like, some sort of work committee, to sort of talk about kind of next steps and figure out what direction that we're heading in. Was, I think, where we left things at. And, Todd had asked today that
so
we.
I'm sorry. And so the work group will be representatives of all 3 towns with select people from OROAA to really kind of talk about things, look at where things are, try to analyze where things are, try to come up with better agreements, better relationship. So I think that's
Yeah.
what the plan is.
And so part of that is that Todd asked us to look at putting together a memorandum of understanding for our spaces, because one has not previously existed. So Rachel forwarded out to people the one that Lee has, and it's just sitting here.
I read.
That one it seems to be much more focused on ORYA managing their field space, which is not the direction that we were intending to go. There was also a letter that the only sort of agreement we have with them is a letter, and it has more to do with our office space. So I'm not sure if we want to sort of combine them into one memorandum of understanding, so there's not 2 separate documents, and maybe put the 2 things together with the office space and the fields and all of those sorts of things. So thoughts?
Yeah, I'm wondering, it seems like, and I'm sorry for being late, I came from practice, but it's been a busy couple weeks, and I haven't been able to keep up on the town doings as much as possible, but as much as I'd like. It seems like now there's a pulling back from the request to ask for representation on the board. Is that true, or, because I love this idea of a work group, but before the baseball thing, after the baseball thing, the solution is to get independent people on that board.
There's no pulling back, and I think
Yeah, okay.
all 3 towns and the school district
Yeah.
are going to want representation.
Mhm.
And I think part of the working group will be looking at their board composition, and rather than maybe adding members is making the board the same size, but adding independent people,
I
otherwise
just hate to
it's very
see all this
dilute.
stuff going when the solution just seems so simple, like get all the different interests and work together to figure it out, right? And
I think that's right,
Okay.
and I think that's where the sentiment
Okay.
is.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And the facilities, totally agree. And I think that if I was gonna give feedback to ORYA, or just the process, maybe not ORYA, the process, is that they have too much control over public lands. And so, and I don't think they're always equitably distributed to users. So they're the bosses of these fields in other towns, so to speak. And I think
And they really are here in Durham too. There's no, like, I'm asked, like, I'll get a request from, for example, I don't get too many requests to
Yeah,
use
yeah.
the fields at all, but the high school Ultimate Frisbee group wanted to use.
Yeah.
And so I'm almost asking permission from ORYA
to the fields
for
that are
like what their
technically-
schedule is,
yeah.
even though their schedule has never gone through, it's never been approved by anyone.
Yeah,
They were the only game in town, so,
Right,
yeah.
right.
I
It's
think-
just,
I think
it's
the
just
other
how it's
town-
been, and
Yeah.
Well, I think the other towns don't necessarily have the resources to put somebody in place to be the facilities manager.
right, and this
So to-
isn't, like, I'm not trying to say we need to have all the control, that's just how it's, like, that's the process that currently takes place, is I ask them
Mhm.
if the field's available for another group to use. So it's a little,
Well, and
That-
looking
it
at this,
shouldn't be that
that's
way.
how
it
it
should,
seems
right,
to
it's,
be.
that seems,
They should, for Durham facilities and others, there should be an entry point that's equitable to all user groups.
and the Parks and Rec Department should have a
Well, in Durham,
they
you
should give
be
us a
ha-
schedule,
you should
right,
be-
of-
Right, you can even do an Outlook calendar for crying out loud.
Well, in an organizational chart, they should be reporting to you.
Right.
Not vice versa.
exactly.
That
So
was-
that's just, it's just to clean this up.
Well, that was in Pittsburgh where I had been. Everyone that used like our fields and stuff for the summer, all of those programs they would all sit down in March with our director and sort of figure out their schedules kind of together, and then that would get done first before we opened it up essentially for public use as to what was left. So I mean, we let them get first dibs, but then their schedule was set
Right.
several months in advance, so that it was still open for other rentals and opportunities as well.
And there's, it's kind of been like a handshake agreement where ORYA, they care for the field, the baseball diamond and things like that. So just to have some of that stuff like set in writing, I guess, like what the town's responsibility is, we'll mow, we'll da-da-da-da-da, and ORYA will care for.
So there's some other MOUs in place too. The university uses like Jackins Landing, that area.
Yeah.
That's another one you might want to ask Todd to, if you can look at. I know it's a lot smaller than this one.
Yeah, this one,
Might be an
and the one that we
advantage.
have with them for the use of the building here is much smaller too. It's to the
I like
point,
it.
this is very thorough.
I like the idea though of combining. You shouldn't have to look for stuff
So-
like that.
It seems like the task is coming to this committee in some way, shape, or form. I guess I would feel like, can we ask the town for legal support on this in how this is crafted in a fair, sensible, clear way? Like, I mean, I think we're being asked to do something that might not be within our skill sets. I don't know. Like, I think the town should ask us for what we think should be the process, and then that should go through some sort of administrative process.
Right.
That people who do these things should look at it. And,
Is there someone that typically does these sorts of things?
I mean, we could copy these, but is that the best way? I would like someone to look at that. I don't know.
Right, like we took when Ferlin had management of the rink, we created and like the contracts and things like that, we kind of took that and tweaked it once it came in-house, and we had the town's attorney review all of that, so, I would say the same process can certainly take place. I think, Nate, where you're saying, maybe our role here is to come up with just the points of what we think the process of the field rentals and,
Yeah, like I think we should be looking
And
to
DPW can weigh
your
in about-
expertise in recreation, and our experiences in those areas as we have them, and say this is what we think the best kind of situation is. But we shouldn't be responsible for drafting that type of document. And somebody who I would hate to have that burden be put on you. You've got enough stuff to do. I would say legal documents and parades should be moved out of your
Out of your
I've been
wheelhouse.
on the record many times saying that, right? Because the success of all, you're kind of a victim of your own kind of good efforts and success, and that like now these summer programs are full and they need to be good,
right.
right? And that's going to serve a lot more people. And so I think your time is better spent there.
Okay.
And then, trying to craft some legal document through looking at what Lee does and Madbury does, and like, let's just tell them what we think is the best way things would work. That could go to that work group, and maybe the work group can
Right.
deal with the legal papers.
And I think DPW is gonna play a big role in this too, just
Well, they're gonna
understanding
want
what,
the maintenance,
what they
yeah.
currently do versus what OROA does in order to maintain that. It's really Woodbridge, right? I mean, is there any, that's really the town field we're talking about, that,
Do they use Oyster River Park anymore? I know they used to. No. Okay.
I don't think so.
so at least we're talking about really one property,
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess the rink is a rental agreement, right?
right, that has its own contract
It
and
does have its own
agreement.
contract. Do we want to then sort of figure out like
The office space we have one.
what the bullet points would be that we would want to have in it? And then, if there's any of them that we want to talk about, more in depth, we can. So, I mean, it's sort of like, do we want to list like there needs to be some sort of like hold harmless clause in there, you know, or something about maintenance. And, I mean, is that what?
I even think that that's outside of our area of expertise. I think, you know, we think, I don't know, for example, that, you know, scheduling for fields should be coordinated with or through the rec department, not as an afterthought.
Right.
So I think more of a process of how those facilities are used and not the legal ease and how many millions of dollars of liability insurance they need to be on the property or all those things are like, yeah, I can look at what they wrote, but they could be wrong.
Right, and
Or I
that's,
could spend
that's for
tons
their
of-
fields and
or
not
we-
ours.
Or Rachel could spend tons of time researching all these things and probably come up with an accepted best practice for insurance, but like, I'd rather have
Right,
the town's lawyer, we have a lawyer on retainer, do that.
Right.
I'd rather have you make sure the reach things are great. You know, or break in that new van, right?
Breaking it in.
Get the work order for the second one going. So, right, I mean, that seems like time better spent.
yes.
I mean, I agree, and I think one of the things that you said, I think that working group, which is really trying to define the overall relationship between the town of Durham and ORYA, and certainly use of the fields, use of the space, that's part and parcel of that. And until that relationship is defined, how do you even come up with an MOU? And,
I think we just say, here's what we think would work really well for us.
Yeah.
The master schedule is held by the recreation department, and, you know, you work through them for your needs, and we will continue as we support the use of all three towns using our facilities as best they can.
and we'll get input from DPW about
Right,
maintenance
maintenance.
and what's going on with that.
Right.
Yeah,
And even, I mean, it would be good to be forward thinking too on that, on the field, like when, do we wanna see anything more done there? Is there a plan to improve the fields? Like, who does that? When does that happen? Is it
Or do they
10
wanna use
years?
some of
Is-
their capital fund to help create a new field in Durham?
Right,
but that's, I think,
No,
yeah,
that's a
it's
good,
who's
I like that,
responsible for
that's a
that.
good, I like the way you're thinking there.
10 years out, right?
Yeah.
I'm talking a lot about that.
And I think it would be good for the school district to sit down with this too, because they're gonna have,
Scheduling and use, yeah,
they have,
They have all the,
Yeah.
they have the fields.
Crazy.
Right.
That will come part. And it probably would really be good to hear from maybe Mike Lynch about how, what's going on with maintenance. How,
Yeah.
what they're doing now, what OROA is in learning that relationship. So maybe we should reach out to Mike and ask him to summarize for us what's actually the involvement at this point.
Yeah.
Both Todd and I reached out to Doug and Mike
Schedule.
regarding this process and
So if the
shared this with them as
fall
well.
around.
And I know Todd reached out to Mike, so.
do they have an agreement with Madberry?
They do, but it's different. This was somewhat relatable to us. Madberry has, you know, they have like the rental of the rent to, I don't know, the whole Tibbetts
They have
Field,
Tibbetts Field,
Okay.
right.
which is not typical to anything that we have here.
So I think the two things then that we would want to bring forward is that we'd like to see the office space and the field usage combined into one document. And then that scheduling needs to go through the recreation department for all of the facilities, period. Would that be,
That and a breakdown of town maintenance and versus ORWA maintenance, because
Right.
they're, both groups are doing work out there. It's just, and it's known, it's just not written down anywhere. You know, they do contribute to the maintenance out there and take care of the fields, and they pay for the porta potty that's out there. Yeah, it's no longer working at this point, but it could be one of the 10-year, you know, that field's like super wet when all the other fields are dry, so
right,
I'd like to see a little patch of turf out there, so more things can take place.
dreaming big,
Hey, you know
in
me,
our 10-year plan.
you know me.
But I mean, it's so important, with that maintenance thing is really defining roles and expectations. So if that expectation is not being met, you've got a document and you can go and say, hey, you were supposed to do this, and,
Right.
you know, whichever side is, not doing it, so.
I think it'll be good for both programs.
Yep.
I mean, I think it's a good step for everyone. Okay, any other thoughts on it? Okay. We talked a little bit about Memorial Day, and what was going on. What sort of help are you looking for? Do you need?
I don't know. No, I mean, Friday I'll be picking up the chairs from the high school and the
Okay.
podium from the police department. You know, we set up tents last year, so
What time do you want me there?
yeah, I mean, it's just, it's some help in the morning getting everything set up, so it's kind of an early morning with all of
Right.
that, because, you know, unfortunately, we can't do anything the night before to set up.
What time are they shutting down the road?
Oh geez, they won't shut it down till probably,
No, I had to shut it down last year. What time are they shutting down the road?
I haven't given them a time, but if we want it at like 9:30 or so, I'm sure
Okay.
they'll shut it down at around that time. Rainey has said that they will have like more presence with the traffic control, but I kind of plan to be more down in that, and usually
That end.
I wait for the kids, or I get the kids into the parade and then I walk down with them, but this year I probably will see if I can have someone else do that and just be down, so that way I can direct people a little bit more once
Is
they
the
enter town.
jazz band coming again?
Yep.
So
They're coming, they're setting up the PA system, so that is all taken care of. So it's really just the chairs, the tent, the podium that day, that morning,
getting people situated.
and then getting people lined up. And, I mean, Mike, you've been part of that. Kenny, you've been part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yep, I'll be there. I'll do that again this year, whatever you need
okay.
me to do.
And I know I have Andrea, the assistant, that she'll be with me that day. So at 8:00.
8 o'clock?
8:00 for if you want to help set up like up top.
Yeah.
You know, I would say 9:15 down here. We've asked people to show up at 9:30, so I don't really think anything earlier than that.
Sounds good.
And I'll probably have Andrea get the school kids out. You know, I'll just message her, put this, I don't know, maybe not. Maybe I'll have someone who's been part of it do that.
Maybe have her down there with them so that.
Okay, you usually walk up too, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I've been down by the pond and got everything lined up
Mhm.
and then walk up with it.
So maybe I'll have you'll know when to have the school kids come out, and you can just stop everyone and then pull the school kids out to go, so that way I can be down. Once
Yeah.
we get everyone set up here, then I usually run up and can go downtown.
Okay, that's easy.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right. The survey. Mike sent me his questions, and I think I sent them out to you guys, but don't hold me to that.
Yeah, you
It's
did.
been
I
kind
got
of-
'em.
I think probably our best bet is if we can get a hold of the old survey, and then, you know, maybe sort of work from there.
I was supposed to do that, wasn't I?
It's been busy.
It has been.
Who would I email to find it? I mean, because I can email.
I think it's really on the old rec computer that just is faulty at the moment.
They have to have a copy in the
Wasn't
building
it-
somewhere.
Wasn't it Bob Barcelona who?
Was that out of the
Conducted that
UNH
survey?
Survey Center, though?
No, I think it was Bob and his crew. I know, I can email him. No, Bob. I'll maybe email him after graduation though.
Instead of, yeah, no.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
once we get next week
Yeah.
after, something like that, let them get out of school mode.
Well, and at this point, we're probably not gonna need it until like August, so we've got some time. But as people, if you come up with anything specific questions or something you want me just to add on the list so that we can keep a running record, just shoot them to me and I'll put them on there. That way, we'll at least have it to reference when we get around to that. Anyone had anything else they wanted for the survey?
Do we have other communities that you know of that have done surveys that you could ignore and steal
Sure,
questions from?
yeah. I'm sure
You can call Gary
many of the big,
Dover and see if he does one.
yeah. I'm sure many of the towns have all had that
Yep.
done, so.
Yep.
So, I know we've talked about this, but just so make sure I'm not thinking of it in a different way. What are we trying to, what's the end of this? What are we looking to get out of doing this survey?
So the purpose was to figure out how we can fine tune essentially what we have. You know, what are we doing really well? What are we missing? What do we maybe have too much of that we can sort of expend those resources elsewhere? You know, who's not getting the services that they need from us? And then also to kind of figure out like a 10-year kind of master plan, you know. What sort of is the interest in the community potentially for like a community center of sorts, or those sorts of, you know, what are we looking to in the future to kind of help us figure out visions and goals that we want to set for ourselves for like the next 10 years.
So a lot of different things, it seems.
Yeah, and I like what you had mentioned back when we first talked about this, was a way to educate people too
Yeah.
with the survey.
Right.
They may read through the question and say, I had no idea.
Well, I think it seems like a couple different surveys potentially. So like the 10-year plan, and I guess you could put it together. The thing that's, I don't know, we need to think about is what's the rate of return / significance of that going to be?
Right.
And then the longer I've seen the statistics, but the longer the survey is, like the response, you know, like, or people will stop right in the middle. So I don't know, just for whatever that's worth, but it seems like, so we want to figure out kind of what the community might think of as good long-term goals. We want
Right.
to get feedback on current programs and current short-term visions that people might want to see.
Maybe we send out like a question a week with the Friday updates, like a one little blurb at the bottom every week with the Friday updates.
That kind of ties into Kenny's idea.
Yeah.
I like that.
Or
It's not a real survey, but you know.
No, but I mean, just like to feel out,
It's more of an educational thing.
it is more of an educational thing, but I mean, if that's what we're kind of aiming for, or even just a couple of shorter, not necessarily doing everything at once, maybe we do something just like about programming. And then maybe we do something, you know,
Or you,
It's about trying to
or you,
figure out.
I mean, or you make it qualitative and you just add 3 questions, you know?
right,
How are we doing now? What would you like to see in the next year? What would you like to see in the next 10 years? See what we get. I don't think anything we do is gonna have significance where we could say, oh yeah, here we
it's
go.
true.
You know,
Yeah.
everybody wants, you know, the,
Turf on the field.
well, the Jackson
Lots of
Landing
freedom.
extravaganza, you know, that, with the waterfront office for our rec director and yoga room, right? If we got that.
Don't forget the sauna. and
The saunas, yeah. So it wouldn't be significant, right? So I just want to make sure that we know what we're doing, what the value of what we're doing is, and figure out how we can steer it to make it as valuable as possible for us.
I wonder almost if we send out the 3-question qualitative survey, right, and see what we get back, and then, you know, if we decide that that leads us to maybe need to craft, you know, a more in-depth survey.
I actually like that idea better than the old survey. The old survey, if I remember correctly, was more, would you be in favor of, and then, you know, keeping this, stopping this, starting that kind of
Yeah,
crafted question. And I think, well, would you be in favor of a larger rec department and hiring 8 more professionals to help, you know? And the answer was no. Right. It's kind of like, that's kind of narrow, so that's why I kind of like the open-ended question. a little
so
bit
maybe
more.
if we go with that, just the 3 simple questions, and then we can,
Or 4.
right,
I
or
don't
something
know,
like
yeah.
that, and then we can get that back, and based on what we get back, maybe then we can sort of craft something that's a little more fine-tuned. to
Maybe I'm
figure
just
out.
tired and I'm looking for all these ways to
I know.
get out of work.
And the other thought, Rachel,
I
is
don't want to do that
Not the only
documents.
one.
I don't want to do that survey. and maybe
the
I'm
other thought,
just-
Rachel,
Or
is,
you caught me on bad
and you
day.
might be doing this already, is to survey your captured audience already. You
Yeah.
have people that are using your programs already.
You know,
As
I-
much as you need to survey them and ask for them for those qualitative questions, you also want to find the people that aren't taking advantage of
Right.
their tax.
Right.
it's one of, like, that's something that I'm definitely not doing, and it's one of my goals moving forward is after every program, real simple, just to get some feedback from people.
When you were talking, Nate, I was thinking along that line, and when we, I think, Dave, you talked about getting new ideas for Memorial Day Parade. Even part of our, I don't know if it makes sense, but part of our Memorial Day, kind of like the people that were working on the master plan for land use, had those things around town, and you can drop in a suggestion. If we just have something downtown like Memorial Day, pieces of paper that people could tear off, and asking feedback on Memorial Day and any ideas. And
Did you know that this is one of the X number of days that the Durham Parks and Rec Department sponsors and oversees? And
Right.
Would you like to see more? Or what would you like to see us?
what give
We can throw in the, I mean, it's gotta be over 250 days of programming. I mean, more than that if you double dip, right? Count things that are running concurrently.
Right.
How many people days of programming do we offer?
Yeah, it's a lot.
and then those big special events that
Mm-hmm. Right, and
fall
events,
with
yeah.
these, there's a day-to-day programming, and then we
Mhm.
have Durham Day and Memorial Day.
Is your programming information like the pamphlet, is it only available online?
This?
Yes.
No, we do deliveries, we bring it,
But does it get mailed to addresses?
no.
Because I wonder if there's a portion of our population that perhaps isn't necessarily connected to the internet or doesn't, go to places that, you would frequent, that you would find those that, would have no clue that we're offering an adult trip that they might be interested in.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I almost wonder if, like, every once in a while, and it wouldn't have to be necessarily the whole program, like, even if we just mailed home like a one-page, like, brochure, like, here's some of the upcoming offerings or whatever. Just.
Should find a way to get on with the DPW,
Oh,
water and sewer, or whatever they're.
Stuff it in the bill.
Put something on there.
That's funny because that's exactly what happened in Barrington, is the rec department was doing that, and everybody else piled on to their publication.
Well, we used to send home like a quarterly newsletter, and it wasn't just the Parks and Recreation stuff. And there was there would be like updates from, but just particularly when you have an older population that may not necessarily be. I just wonder how many people
I'd
we're
wanna
not
know,
reaching.
like, for budget, like,
Right.
I
how
feel
much
like the
it's gonna
majority
cost,
of
I know.
people will be like, recycle,
Right.
like another piece of paper. But yes, you're right, there are people who would really value that, so.
I must admit, I do post that DPW thing on the side of the refrigerator.
We do too at our house, yeah, or it goes like, we reference it,
The
things.
schedule.
Or, I mean, maybe it's even at the beginning of the year, we send out a schedule of events and then how to find our or maybe like with a blurb of like some of the programs we offer throughout the year and here's how to, register for them or find out more, so that it's just like one sheet that goes out once a year with like the information to how to get there for people that may not be familiar with it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, reaching people is super hard.
It
Just
is.
at mountain biking club today, I had parent walk through, and she's actually a couple people. Is it too late to sign my kid up? Why, I had no idea this was happening. How can I find out about this stuff? Asking your wife to make sure they text her.
My kids were there, yeah.
Well,
So
if you have that one place that you go, everyone knows they can go to find the information. I agree with you that maybe there are some people that aren't able to go to that. But if you know that every bit of your information is in this spot, it won't be as confusing to people. They know that's the
Right.
spot to go to.
and I think we're getting there, but the whole rec desk thing is new for
It
the
is.
department. So
We've had good luck with that at the university, that stop doing multiple.
right, I mean, I look at UNH, ORYA. I mean, I get very little information social media wise of what's happening. I reach out because I know there's things going on. So I'm hopeful that Parks and Rec is getting to that point, or can get to that point where people are like, oh, I'm looking for something to do for my kid for after school, and let's see what Parks and Rec has, you know, that they're actively, versus us always reaching out.
I was a rec professional in the municipal time when it was all flyers. There was no internet.
Right,
So we had to bring it all to the public schools and they handed them out. And the
Right.
Kids brought them home in their lunch boxes, and that's how the families got that info.
I mean,
I'm not
unfortunately,
Really that old, I read about it, yes.
Should we have,
In a newsletter.
Yeah.
That went home in my kid's lunchbox.
should we have a
His- in
stack
his
of those
lunchbox.
kind of in the office across the way where people go to pay their, you know, for their dogs and stuff, and a pile at the library as just kind of outreach points to
Yeah.
try to catch different populations? And we could monitor if they're taken or not.
right. Yeah, I mean, things definitely get posted at all those places, but leaving, you know, actual things for people to take
Yeah.
can happen.
I was just thinking, because we were talking about the survey, you know, and reaching the people that we're not reaching. And I just wonder how many of them we're not reaching just because, you know, they're not on the internet or they don't know to go looking for it.
Yeah,
or-
I'm sure there's a
Yeah.
lot, unfortunately.
Right.
Well,
Makes you wonder how many.
When you receive a bill, not all the time, but sometimes there'll be what I call a stocking stuffer in it. It'll be something totally unrelated, except that whoever's promoting what's in the stocking stuffer made a deal to have their piece of paper slipped into the envelope with the water bill or the gas bill or whatever. The water bills in town, I suspect, are produced by a contractor, so that may be difficult to stuff.
Slip it
Maybe
in.
not impossible,
Just
but,
sneak it in.
but that's twice.
Did you say you do it all the time? Look at that. See?
With our own bills at work, we always make sure that there's something going on. When we send a client their end of the month statement, it's my opportunity as a marketing director to tell them what's going on in the company the next 30, 60, 90 days.
You said you got to come up to the podium and talk.
Hi, Mike Mullaney, Fairchild Drive. We're just saying, with my work, we do an awful lot with statement stuffers and things like that. And as the marketing director for our company, we have the same problem that you're talking about here. You've got people that only receive information from the mail, and you've got people that are looking for quick access and QR codes directly to the site. You know, this is just a wide variety of how people get their information right now. It's just the community and the world we live in. So unfortunately, you have to take the same message and find as many possible places for it to go. And statement stuffers is a great opportunity. And if specifically you were mentioning the older community, they are the ones who walk to the mailbox and watch for the postman and go down there and check and go through the mail closer than the rest of us probably do.
Right.
So that'd be a great way to reach those who aren't technical savvy at this point. Thanks.
Thank you.
It's something we can think about for.
I'd be curious to know how much the town pays to have the calendar of curbside services
Right?
printed and mailed.
Probably quite a chunk of change.
Right? It goes to probably, well, I don't know how many households there are.
All of them.
I know, but I'm insane in town. Are there 4,000
Right.
houses in town? 11,000 people?
You saying, can we slide it in there?
Well, I'm saying if we wanted to do it, how much would it cost? Does it make sense for us to do it?
Well, it's kind of like Mike's talking about,
Yeah.
yeah. It's the
So,
same
like, that's
thing.
what I'm saying. How much does the one that they send out cost? And it'll give us an idea of what we'd be looking
Or
at.
we partner up with them and,
Well, yeah, that too.
costs.
Split the cost, yeah.
And slide ours in.
Or we get that van and we just drive to every house and
Yeah.
put it in the mailbox.
introduce ourselves
Yeah,
at
right.
customer
That'll
service.
be good for your intern.
Yeah,
You can go door to door.
your job for the year.
Nobody does that anymore, do they?
Knock on the
Sell
door.
stuff
Parks and
door to
Rec
door.
calling.
Can you imagine? Hey, I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Rachel from Parks
Do you have
and
a couple
Rec.
minutes to talk about recreation?
Did you hear the good news? We're offering programming just for you.
All right, you guys are.
That's a great idea. I'll test it out at each one of your houses moving forward.
We'd have to do it quarterly though, right?
A van.
Was there anything else anybody wanted to talk about with the survey? I think we can put it to bed for right now. All right, the next is chair and vice chair nominations and voting, because I found out incidentally that it's something you're supposed to, I think, do yearly. So, in May, does anyone feel like they really want to be chair this year?
I nominate Casey. We got a second.
It's because Dave doesn't want to get nominated. Okay, so you got a second. Guess it's all those in favor.
All those in favor?
Guess, all right, so now we need vice chair.
Who's our vice chair
Kenny, do you want to
currently?
continue to be vice chair?
It's been very demanding. I mean, I think I'll carve out, I guess I can carve that time out if the committee so wishes.
Let me second that.
All in favor? All right, so I will email Jenny when she gets back from vacation and let her know.
Congratulations.
Thanks, I'm so excited. We have to get it changed online probably at this point.
I've talked to Craig. So Jenny's been on vacation because I wasn't sure about the terms. He has all the names, but I wasn't sure about the terms of everyone. So he needed to check with Jenny on that.
Sounds good. All right, the last thing we wanted to talk about was summer schedule. So for the past 2 summers, we've picked one day that we thought that the majority of us could meet in lieu of having monthly meetings, because summer is just so hectic for everyone. So if you guys happen to have your calendars kind of available, we can try to come up with a tentative date. And then, you know, if things change as we get closer, we can always try to reschedule. Last year, I think we met right around the Music on Main Street time. So in early August, it was either like the week, I think it might have been the week after.
So
the
will we
question
meet in
would be
June, but then just meet once in July?
in August?
Meet
How do you
either-
guys feel about that? Does everyone feel that they could make a June meeting, or is June pushing it?
So June would be the third Thursday, June 21st would be,
Yeah.
yeah.
Solstice.
Solstice. It'll be very bright outside.
Long meeting.
Oh, the
I'm
longest day.
available.
Yep, I'm set.
That should be fine for me.
June 21.
I'm not available.
Well, we'll still have a quorum if it's just,
Yeah, I
and by
start
that
having
point, we'll
practices on
probably have Mike
Thursdays.
sworn in. So, does June 21st work for you?
Yep.
So we can put in June 21st as our next meeting, and then do we want to just pick one date for July and August? Or do you want to
Sure.
wait until June to pick it? Dave said wait until June.
July and August are very vacation-y,
Yes.
and late August, forget, school's about to start.
So why don't we wait until June 21st, when everyone has their summer schedule a little more firmed up?
Thank you.
And we can probably pick one date somewhere between the 2 months to do our summer meeting. And that'll give Rachel a lot more time for the programming and events that she has to do over the summer too, instead of trying to prep for us.
It's kind of sad, but I know like my entire summer already.
I know, I saw you printed it out,
There
and
is
handed it to us.
That's all the,
No,
first year
personally and work.
That's what it is. They have been
Everything is
starting all of June.
so
There's like
limited.
2 a
I
week
squeeze
for
things
the
in
whole
where I
month.
can.
All right, so
It's
then
nothing.
our next meeting will be the 21st at 7, and I will send out a reminder the week before. Look, I wrote it down, so I'll remember. Maybe. And, oh, is there anything that anybody wants on the agenda for the June meeting that we feel that they want to discuss in June?
Is there a traditional way to celebrate the solstice?
A lobster bake?
June 21.
Did you say a lobster bake? I don't think so, but
Yeah. Do that.
I think it's Dunkin' Donuts.
What's that?
Yes, but we're on TV, so. And it doesn't have to do with lobster.
What did it have to do with sunburn and looking like a lobster?
Is that the day that the Druids dye their skin purple and dance around circles of stones and stuff?
That could be any given
Gonna
day.
have to, well, no, there's something about the solstice.
Are you proposing another Parks and Rec activity?
Parks and Rec
No,
can't run
just-
that event.
It's not family
I
friendly.
think we have enough monthly events.
I think there's some tradition associated with the longest day. Anyhow,
Yeah,
Trying to stand an
I
egg
think
on
there's a
it.
bunch. I think there's a bunch.
The
of
kids
different
get out of
cultures.
school, that's their first day of vacation,
first day of
so,
vacation.
Not this year, though, is it?
yeah,
I think
they're
It's
out,
a half day for
22nd
us.
this year.
they're out the 20th.
I
No,
think this,
that's my
the
in-service day.
Scandinavian cultures do have a special event, and I'm forgetting what it's called.
Midsummer,
Yeah,
Midsummer's Eve,
Yeah.
yes.
Shakespeare.
and so it's a very
We have a
festive
night
day
street.
in
It's,
Scandinavia.
banquets and, yeah.
All right, then I will, for the next meeting, probably just keep it pretty bare bones. I mean, if something comes up that you want on the agenda, just shoot me an email before.
We're gonna have to
that
start getting the
Thursday
rink back
before.
on the agenda.
I can put the rink back on the agenda. We were taking it off for a month. It was on last. It was off last. It was on last month. It can go back on. All right. No one else has any pressing business? And I hereby call this meeting to adjourn at 8:11. Does anyone second it? Seconded. All in favor? Come on, Nate. So.